Have you ever walked into a room full of people and still felt like you were the only one there? Surrounded but unseen, included but never quite understood. If you felt that kind of silence echoing inside you, you're not broken, you're being built. That feeling, that discomfort is the early signal of the chosen. And the truth is, chosen ones often walk through the world carrying a weight they can't fully explain. A sense of difference, of separation, of being set apart, even when they don't want to be. You weren't meant to fit in, not because you're better, not because you're above anyone, but because your spirit is wired differently. You were designed to see things others miss, to hear what others ignore, to sense what others can't. That kind of sensitivity doesn't come with comfort. It comes with confusion, especially early on, and that confusion often turns inward. You begin to question yourself. Why don't they get me? What's wrong with me? Why do I always feel like I'm on the outside looking in? But here's the truth. There's nothing wrong with you. The world teaches conformity. It teaches fitting in. But your soul was never meant to shrink to make others comfortable. You were meant to expand, even if that means expanding alone for a while. That aloneness is part of your initiation, the beginning of your becoming. Most people fear loneliness. But chosen ones, they eventually learn to lean into it. Not because it's easy, but because they realize that isolation is not punishment. It's preparation. You're being pulled away from the noise for a reason. You're being disconnected from the familiar for a purpose. There is a war happening inside of you between who you were told to be and who you really are. And that war is brutal. It leaves you confused, angry, exhausted. But it's also how you begin to remember your power. That's what most people won't tell you. Feeling like you don't belong isn't a sign you failed. It's often the clearest proof that you're waking up. The isolation you feel isn't random. It's not a glitch. It's a signal. It means you're growing past your environment, outgrowing relationships, detaching from what no longer aligns with your frequency. That's why it hurts. That's why people you once felt close to now feel like strangers. It's not personal, it's spiritual. And the deeper you go into your transformation, the more separation you'll feel, but the more clarity you'll find. You see, being chosen doesn't come with a crown. It comes with weight, with responsibility, with a calling that doesn't make sense to most people. Because your journey isn't about being understood, it's about being aligned. And sometimes alignment requires isolation. You can't hear your inner voice if it's drowned out by everyone else's. You can't rise if you're chained to the comfort of the crowd. So if you're feeling alone right now, don't run from it. Don't fill the space with noise. Don't chase connection just to avoid the stillness. Stay with it. Sit in the silence. It's not empty, it's sacred. That quiet space where it's just you, that's where the truth begins to surface. Not the truth you've been told, but the truth you've always known. The truth you buried to belong. The truth you silenced to survive. There's power in that space. And you're just starting to feel it. You feel disconnected because you're not supposed to blend in and not supposed to follow the crowd when you were designed to lead yourself through unfamiliar territory. The reason you feel out of place, the reason your conversations feel shallow, your relationships feel distant, your surroundings feel heavy, is because your spirit is waking up to something deeper, something real, something rare. And the moment you start to rise above what once held you down, the world around you will no longer feel like home. It's like wearing shoes that used to fit, but now hurt every time you take a step. Growth makes comfort impossible. Chosen ones experience this sooner than most. The system doesn't support people like you, people who question, people who seek truth, people who can't pretend anymore. You weren't meant to stay stuck in circles where your soul is starving just to keep up appearances. That's why you feel out of sync. That's why small talk drains you. That's why fake smiles exhaust you. Your soul is craving something real, and that craving isolates you, but it also protects you. You're not being abandoned. You're being aligned. Most people are comfortable living in loops, repeating cycles, following trends, obeying voices outside themselves. But you've started to hear a different voice, a quieter one, a more powerful one. And that voice doesn't yell, it whispers, it leads, and it asks you to let go of the noise, to walk away from what no longer fits. That's why you're losing friends. That's why old relationships are falling away. That's why you feel like you're drifting. Because you're drifting toward your destiny and away from distraction. The loneliness you feel isn't a lack of people. It's a lack of connection, real connection, soul connection. And when your spirit rises, it becomes nearly impossible to stay in spaces where you have to shrink. You'll feel alone not because you are unloved, but because your energy no longer matches the people around you. And that mismatch is protection. You see, you're being removed so you can be renewed. Every time you feel isolated, it's not the world rejecting you, it's the universe redirecting you. You're being pulled from the crowd because your next season requires clarity, and clarity requires distance. Most people won't understand what you're going through, and they're not supposed to. Your path isn't common. Your process won't be either. Let them misunderstand you. Let them talk. Let them think you've changed, because you have. You've stopped watering what doesn't grow. You've stopped explaining your energy to people committed to misunderstanding it. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. That's growth. That's you choosing yourself for the first time in a long time. The disconnect you feel is not a mistake. It's confirmation. You are not who you used to be. You can't go back. And the more you try to, the more out of place you'll feel. Because you're not meant to go back. You're meant to go deeper, higher, further. So stop asking for permission to be different. Stop seeking validation for your growth. You're not supposed to be understood by everyone. You're supposed to be real with yourself. And sometimes being real means being alone. Not forever, but for now. And that for now will become the foundation for everything that comes next. You don't need everyone to see you. You just need to see yourself clearly. That's the shift. That's the power. Most people live for approval, for applause, for acceptance. But chosen ones, they learn to live for alignment. And that kind of living feels lonely at first because you're no longer motivated by what others think. You're not chasing recognition anymore. You're chasing purpose. You're chasing peace. You're chasing wholeness. And that makes you dangerous to the systems that profit off your insecurity, to the people who benefited from your self-neglect, to the patterns that kept you distracted and numb. The moment you stop trying to belong and start choosing to become, your entire world changes. And with that change comes distance from the old version of yourself. Distance from people who only knew how to relate to your brokenness. Distance from environments that rewarded your silence but feared your truth. That's what being chosen feels like. It's not glamorous. It's not flashy. It's not filled with constant celebration. It's quiet, uncomfortable, testing. It's the journey of shedding what's false to uncover what's real. And in that shedding, you'll feel naked, vulnerable, exposed, but don't run from that feeling. Sit with it. Let it transform you. Because loneliness isn't the enemy. Disconnection from your true self is. And every moment you spend alone, honoring your own healing, choosing your own voice, respecting your own boundaries, that's a victory. That's not isolation. You see, most people want freedom, but they don't want the process. They want elevation, but not the separation. But it's the separation that unlocks the elevation. You can't take everything and everyone with you. You can't build the next version of yourself while clinging to the pieces that broke you. And sometimes the only way to realize how far you've come is to stand alone and look back. Not in regret, but in reverence. Because every lonely night, every silent cry, every moment you felt like giving up but didn't, that was your training. That was your awakening. That was your reminder that you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to lead, to heal, to shift the atmosphere just by being fully you. But before you lead others, you must learn to lead yourself through confusion, through quiet, through the wilderness of not knowing what's next. That's what chosen ones do. They walk through the unknown with faith louder than fear. They choose to trust the process even when the path is unclear. Because something inside them knows this aloneness is not emptiness. It's alignment. It's the universe clearing the noise so you can finally hear your soul. And once you hear that voice, you'll never want to drown it out again. You'll stop settling. You'll stop shrinking. You'll stop performing. And you'll start honoring your truth, honoring your vision, honoring your calling. That's what this season is about. Not popularity, not being seen, but being whole. And if you have to stand alone to get there, then stand tall, because your solitude is sacred. Embracing the silence means embracing yourself. When you're alone, you're not lost. You're found. You're finally free to strip away the distractions, the opinions, and the expectations. This is where your real power resides, and that's still in the quiet spaces where your mind has room to breathe and your heart can finally speak without interference. So many of us run from silence, filling the gaps with noise, with people, with anything to avoid being with ourselves. But the chosen ones understand that it's in these moments of solitude that the greatest revelations come. The greatest breakthroughs happen not in the hustle of everyday life, but in the calm of your own company. When you begin to sit with yourself to observe your thoughts without judgment, you realize that all the answers you were searching for were never outside of you. They were always within. All the clarity you've sought, all the direction you've prayed for, it's here waiting for you to tune into it. But you can't hear it when you're too busy looking for validation from others. The more you embrace your solitude, the more you build the connection to your inner voice. And with this connection comes clarity. Clarity about who you are, what you're meant to do, and why you're meant to do. Silence doesn't mean passivity. It's the fertile soil where your vision grows. It's the space where you find your strength. It's where you align with your purpose and realign with your potential. Many people spend their lives distracting themselves from what they truly feel. They keep busy with noise, relationships, jobs, social media, anything to avoid facing themselves. But this doesn't create growth. It creates stagnation. To truly evolve, you need the space to reflect, to process, and to listen. The chosen ones find this space in the silence. They turn the loneliness into a powerful tool for transformation. You see, your mind is like a garden. If you don't tend to it, if you don't pull the weeds, if you don't plant the seeds of positivity and growth, then it will be overtaken by negativity, by doubts, by fears. But when you give yourself the time to be alone, to nourish your mind with thoughts of possibility, of greatness, of peace, then you begin to transform. This is your time to build strength from the inside out. This is when your dreams take root. So don't fear the silence. Don't resist the loneliness. Don't view it as an obstacle. See it as the foundation of your greatness. Every moment spent in silence is a moment spent building your resilience, your clarity, your self-mastery. You're not just waiting for things to change, you're actively creating the space for them to change. You're using this time to heal, to reflect, to recalibrate your direction. Don't rush this process. Don't rush the solitude. This is where you gather your power. This is where your spirit strengthens. You were never meant to chase after the noise. You were meant to find peace within the silence. You were never meant to fear the loneliness. You were meant to discover the freedom that comes with it. Because when you embrace the silence, you don't just find yourself, you become the person you were always meant to be. Loneliness is often misunderstood. It's not a curse, but a blessing in disguise. It's the space where your true self can emerge. And yet it's easy to get caught up in the idea that if we're alone, we're somehow incomplete. Society tells us we need to be surrounded by people to feel validated. It tells us that our worth is tied to external relationships, to how many friends we have or how busy our social calendars are. But this constant need for connection often distracts us from what we truly need, a deeper connection to ourselves. And that's where the chosen ones stand apart. They've learned to sit with themselves. They've learned that the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. In that quiet solitude, you find your own voice, your own rhythm, your own truth. No one can give that to you. It can only come from within. And the more you embrace that solitude, the more you realize that you don't need to fit into the boxes the world tries to place you in. You're not here to conform to someone else's idea of who you should be. You're here to discover who you truly are, to grow in the quiet, to expand in the stillness. Chosen ones understand that peace comes from within. They don't need others to define them. They've stopped waiting for permission to be themselves, to live according to their own values and vision. They've stopped apologizing for their uniqueness. When you stop apologizing for who you are, that's when the real power starts to emerge. You begin to live from a place of authenticity, no longer chasing approval or fearing judgment. And that's where the magic happens. You attract what's meant for you. The right people, the right opportunities, the right experiences. But it's only in the silence that you can hear what's meant for you. Only in the silence can you hear the call to your purpose, the whisper of your destiny. Don't rush to fill the space with noise or distractions. Don't fill the gaps with the opinions of others or the pressure to belong. Embrace the quiet. Embrace the discomfort of being alone because it's not a punishment, it's preparation. Every moment you spend alone is a moment you're investing in your future self. You are creating the space to grow into the person you were always meant to become. You are learning to hear your own voice above all the others. And once you've mastered this, once you've found peace within the solitude, no one will ever be able to take that from you. You'll no longer need external validation to feel whole, because you'll know that you're enough, just as you are. The loneliness you feel is not a sign of weakness, but of strength. It's a sign that you are becoming who you are meant to be. And once you've embraced that, you'll realize that the silence was never your enemy. It was always your greatest ally. You'll look back at this season of solitude and realize that it was the very thing that built your strength, your resilience, your clarity. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. And now you're ready for what comes next. As you step into your power, you'll realize that the loneliness was never a punishment. It was a purification. It was the process that allowed you to shed what wasn't serving you and make space for what truly matters. You weren't abandoned. You were being prepared for something greater. And when you embrace that, you shift from seeing solitude as something to escape to seeing it as a tool to elevate your life. The chosen ones understand this better than anyone. They know that the path to greatness is often a lonely one, not because they are forsaken, but because they are focused. They are too busy evolving to worry about fitting in. They are too busy creating their own path to concern themselves with the approval of others. And this is the power of solitude. It allows you to find your own way without the noise of other people's expectations. When you stop relying on others for validation, you begin to trust yourself more. You become your own source of strength, your own source of encouragement. The external world no longer defines your worth because you've learned to define it for yourself. You've learned that the greatest journey is the one you take inward. The more you go within, the more you realize that you've been given all the tools you need to succeed. Everything you've ever wanted is already within you. It just needed space to come to life. And that's what the loneliness did for you. It created the space for your greatness to unfold. It allowed you to hear your own voice without distraction. It gave you the time to reflect, to learn, to grow. Now, as you move forward, you'll understand that you don't need to be surrounded by people to feel powerful. Your power is within you, and it radiates from the inside out. You'll start to attract the right people, the right opportunities, the right experiences, not because you're chasing them, but because you are aligned with your own truth. And that truth will guide you to places and people who resonate with your energy. The path won't always be easy. There will still be moments of doubt. There will still be days when the loneliness creeps in. But you'll know that it's just a sign that you're growing. It's just a reminder that you're becoming more of who you were always meant to be. And each time you embrace that loneliness, you'll find yourself becoming stronger, more confident, more capable. You'll become unstoppable because you no longer need others to validate your worth. You found your power. You found your peace. You found yourself. And that, my friend, is where your true journey begins. The loneliness, the silence, the solitude, those are not barriers. They are blessings. And the more you learn to embrace them, the more you will realize that the greatest adventure lies within you. Keep walking, keep trusting, keep growing, because the best is yet to come.